Another day, another spin of William the Mystery Game Wheel to find out what kind of game we'll be working on as a novice, as a beginner, as a non-professional, as a non-expert, as someone who possibly doesn't even know what they're doing. And let's spin the wheel, see what kind of game we're going to work on, because I have no idea. You might have an inkling, but I don't. I did not spin at all. Game Boy Advanced. He definitely likes his Game Boy Advance games. All right, thank you, William. Let's go ahead and randomize the box, pull the game out. And what game we'll be working on? Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. Not exactly my cup of tea, but hey, it's a game that is not working, and let's confirm that it's not working. Putting it into the game. Boy. Any signs of life? No Game Boy or no Nintendo logo, so we've got a disruption between the ROM chip and the contacts. You guys know the drill. When in doubt, clean it out. No games left behind. How did the innards look? Also, is this legitimate? Probably. Is there an embossed number? Yes, there's an embossed number, so this one is actually legitimate. 00E4. And we already have our culprit. It looks like dirty pins. Sure, most of you already know, assuming you're returning viewers, what we're going to do, glass stovetop cleaner and polish from Wyman. And then to finish it off with some isopropyl alcohol. And there we go. Got a little goop on me. Bruh. That looks really, really pretty. We got a little bit of gunk down here. I'll have to check that out in a second. Everything else looks good. Yeah, I'm not sure what that spot is, but it might be okay. It's just in that bottom corner. Let's give it a shot. We're gonna do it. We're going with the confidence case screw. And there we go. And yeah, it is 100% working. Okay. And yeah, this one is not worth a whole heck of a lot. It is worth about $7, $6. And after fees and shipping on eBay, it would be more like $2 to $3. So not great. So let's go ahead and grab a couple other games because that was just a little bit too easy. And the other two games we'll try working on is Drake and Josh and Scooby-Doo Mystery Mayhem. Drake and Josh looks to be legitimate and can't see any embossed numbers on this one. This one might be fake. It looks fake. I don't know. I think this one's going to be fake. We'll check that in a minute. Of course, we got to test them out, see what the problems are, if they have any signs of life. No Game Boy or no Nintendo logo. No Nintendo logo. All right, let's check Jake and Josh first because I have a feeling that one's going to be a quick clean. We'll see if we are mistaken. Like we did with the Scooby-Doo game, clean the contacts with some glass stovetop cleaner and polish, and then test again. And there we go. 2 for 2 confidence case. Hey, I hadn't had a flub yet. I guess that's the first one. All right. Confidence case screw, second one attempt. Let's go. Come on, get in there. And there we go. Test her out, and then we'll work on Scooby. And of course, this one doesn't work. Nintendo logo. And it works. Huh, that almost looked like the Wii thing. And yeah, it is working fine. And yep, okay, that's annoying. Too much text. Too much reading. All right, and 1 second. And just for reference, I also looked up this game on eBay. It's about a $7, $8 game on a good day. Probably not worth listing it, but yeah. Probably like $3 or $4 after shipping and fees. And now let's take our attention to Scooby-Doo, which would be about a $10 to maybe $15 game on a really good day. Probably more like 10, but this one's in really bad shape. And I did have a closer look, and I did find right somewhere in here. It's a very, very difficult to see, but it's right here. And I don't know if the camera will pick it up really, but you can see a tiny little 0 and a 7, so there is an embossed label or a number onto this label. Of course, label is in horrible condition, but that's okay. This almost looks like rust here, so this is probably not going to be very good. And this is like, feels like it's stuck. Oh, it's gonna be scary. What's gonna be under this? I have a feeling. Oh. That's weird. Interesting. So why, this looks very weird here. Well, first off, we've got some sort of icky corrosive agent here. Let's check the back. Well, it doesn't look horrible. That looks worse. Let's go ahead and check this out. It's almost like, it almost seems like there's some solder work on this thing. Did someone try to repair this way back in the day? Is that, I think that's a bridge, isn't it? I think that's bridging right there. Interesting. Yeah, it definitely looks like someone tried to fix this thing back in the day. I think we're gonna have to go up to the microscope and check these pins, because they definitely look like they're bridging. Any other signs of problems? I don't know. Interesting. So let's go ahead and go down out to the microscope, check these things out, see if those are bridges, clean everything up, and then see if we can get this thing working, because I don't really care about Scooby-Doo Mystery Mayhem. It's a cheap game, but no games left behind. In the immortal words of Mario, let's go. And here we are under the microscope. And we can definitely tell that there has been some work done in this area. So we're just going to apply some flux, some paste flux, and this will help to make sure everything sticks to where it should and doesn't bridge. At least that's the hope. Then we're going to come in with our soldering iron with a beveled tip. I like using a beveled tip so we can just tack these ROM pin legs down. And we're just going to go over them. We're just going to make sure all the molten liquid is, or molten metal, I don't know what I'm saying, molten metal. We're going to see if Terminator 2 can form to these pins. I was having a lot of problems though. They were like a lot of bridging, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Some of you guys that have some experience with these might guess what's going on, potentially, but I do explain it in a moment. But this is kind of the steps I go to try to solder these pins on. And because I'm not an expert, I, kind of go through it, what I know how to do. But eventually, in a moment, I did mess up. Now, I don't know if this was my fault, but right about... I spoke too soon. Right about... here, I realized that something's going on here, and I tried pushing at it with the probe. I don't know what I was doing. And the traces came right off the board.
So I don't know if this was my fault, if the temperature was too high, but I noticed something while I was soldering these back on or trying to fix them. There are pins missing from the ROM chip. Even, kind of scraping around with the poker tool, there's no pins here. They are missing. And then I started to think, well, okay, they're missing. What's going on here? Then I started looking at the rest of the pins, and there's pins missing. There's pins missing on both sides. You can see I should not be able to run a metal pick through this area. It should be catching on something. It's catching on a few of them. There's still some there, but the majority of them are gone. It's actually quite crazy. I've never seen anything like this. I wasn't vaporizing them with the soldering iron, I'm pretty sure. And then even this angle from the side, you can definitely tell some of these pins are missing. Some are there, some are not. I really don't know. I have a feeling that when those traces lifted, maybe there was no pins there and that's why they moved. Potentially. That's what I'm telling myself to make myself feel better about those. And yeah, pretty bad. Both sides are missing a lot of pins. Let's go ahead and go back to the bench and then take a look at it.
Well, that deteriorated rather quickly. I thought I was having some issues with my soldering iron and the trace came up. The bottom here, a couple traces came up. I thought maybe one of the pins was missing randomly. And I'm like, well, how odd is that? So then I started looking and it turns out a lot of the pins are missing. And I'm talking a lot. And that bridging, I don't know what was happening there. Unless the pins were disintegrating because of the heat. I was at 720 Fahrenheit. But yeah, there is definitely some pins on this ROM chip that are missing. So here's the deal. Is it even possible to repair? Possibly. Now what I mean by that is we could, in theory, take a grinding pen and grind away and expose the innards of this ROM chip and see if we can tack on some jumper wire or magnet wire. I don't know if that's even really possible. So many things could go wrong and it seems more like a Kobayashi Maru setup to me. So I don't know. I really hate leaving a game behind, but this seems to be a bit much. I don't even know how many pins we're missing, and we're missing at least 65% of the pins. So yeah. You can even see some of the pins there, right there in that area here. So yeah, if you guys really want to see me attempt to save this game, leave a comment and maybe I can try it. I mean, no guarantees, and it's probably a really, 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 really long shot, but I would have to definitely make a second video because that would probably be, hours and hours of soldering, and yeah, so, well, at least we got 2 games fixed. I wonder if this is the original ROM chip. I wonder what happened. Somebody really monkeyed around with that thing. But yeah. So, thanks for watching, and God bless. Thank you. Bye-bye.